You're listening to Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast for and by Rockies fans on Rocky Mountain Rooftop. Thank you for joining us as we discuss all things baseball and Colorado Rockies. Hello and welcome to Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast on Rocky Mountain Rooftop, proud affiliate of the Fans First Sports Network. I'm your host, Evan Lang. With me, as always, for one last time in the regular season, we are recording this after game 162. It is Skyler Timmons.
We should have dressed up in our suits and ties, Evan.
Celebrate this finally being over?
No, just to attend the funeral of the 2025 Colorado Rockies.
Yeah. Well, I feel like the funeral itself would have been months ago. The Rockies have been dead for quite some time, Skyler.
They've been walking around as a zombie.
Yeah, the shambling husk of the 2025 Colorado Rockies has finally stopped moving, stopped the final involuntary twitches. The season, mercifully, finally, is over. The Colorado Rockies finish with a record of 43 and 119 after losing their final 6 games in a row, all on the road, swept by the Mariners, swept by the Giants. Tied with the 2003 Detroit Tigers for second worst record in 162 game history.
Something like that. I don't know.
It's something like that. The Rockies were bad.
Yeah.
The season is finally over, and it's been a ride. I don't think anybody can particularly say they had a lot of fun this season, Skyler.
It just felt like a long season. Like, I was just sitting the other day thinking about, looking at stuff, and it's like, those games in Tampa Bay, against Tampa Bay, it seems so long ago, a lifetime ago. When you think of who was on this roster at the end of March to who was on it now, and you just go through all that, and you're like, oh my goodness, so much has happened.
Yeah, that triple play at the beginning of the season, like, it's hard to even think that happened that season. That happened this season.
With Herman on the mound.
And it was just, the Rockies were, honestly, so they were mathematically eliminated in late August? But if we're being honest, the Rockies were eliminated essentially by mid to end of April.
Yeah, wasn't it, there's that one video that we saw, and I think this is right, that they spent the most days in last place in division, MLB history and the division era stuff. Is that true?
Something like that. Yeah, I need to go back and look at that. There's a really good video about that.
Yeah, but you think they've been eliminated since that first loss of the season. They were in last place. They never got out of last place.
Yeah. They spent literally the entire season in last place in the NL West. They finish a breathtaking number of games below 500, an insane number of games out of any sort of wild card race, out of any sort of contention. The Rockies were dead in the water from the get-go, and yeah, I think that's what made this season, yes, all of the other stuff that made this season difficult, but when you look at it and go, there was never anything that we were playing for after opening day, I think that makes it even harder.
Yeah, it's looking at, over on Baseball Reference schedule and results. Doesn't have today's numbers in, but it doesn't matter. Never got above 500. So that tells you everything about this season, because sometimes you can get close, or even get an even record in those early days of the season. Nope, they were behind most of the year. They had one winning streak. Remember that 4-game winning streak, Evan, in June?
That was pretty nice. I liked that.
And then they also had one in August.
Remember when we swept the Marlins?
Oh, man, that was how sweet that was. Remember when we had several 8-game losing streaks? One in April? No, there's 2 in April, 2 in May, 1 in June. Yeah, May to June, and then August.
Yeah, there were 5 different 8-game losing streaks. Put out a franchise record 18 times this season. So that's cool. Finished with a run differential worse than negative 420.
The worst in 125 years.
Gave up over 1,000 runs. Just nothing about this team as a whole. And I'm not going to say that there were no individual performances you can go, hey, that was neat or anything like that. I'm saying as a whole, there was really nothing good about the 2025 Colorado Rockies. The offense was terrible. The pitching was terrible. The results were terrible. You have so many different dubious records and footnotes in history that the Rockies will hold now. And honestly, I think even if potentially brighter days are ahead, I think 2025 is always going to be remembered now as that season. Every team has their one that season that nobody looks back on fondly, that is widely remembered as the worst season in that franchise's history. And you know, I'm not going to say never, because I didn't expect the Rockies to be as bad as they were this year, but I right now cannot see a possibility of being worse.
Yeah.
Like, this was rock bottom.
Yeah. No, because previously it was 2012 for the longest time. That was a horrendous season for a lot of reasons, though. One, bad players, but just a lot of injuries that decimated that roster, among other things. But, you know, they still managed to avoid 100 losses. But then they broke the seal a couple of years ago. And then slightly improved the year after, but still over 100 losses. And then it just completely collapses. This season, we're now, first time in a while that a team has lost 100 games in 3 consecutive seasons. Rockies now join the Astros in that. But the problem is the Astros are able to pull themselves out of it because of drafting well and being able to take advantage of the draft, of drafting first overall, hitting on that, developing guys, then became a powerhouse and just missed the playoffs for the first time in like 6 years, or in like 10 years, pardon me. And then, but the Rockies don't have that advantage. They can't pick higher than 10th next year in the first round. The development is awful. Drafting has, we like the guys that we've talked to, though. They've been able to draft good talent. They don't know how to develop that talent to elite players. And so it's just all collapsed, where it wasn't just injuries this year. They had their fair share, but even then, the players that replaced the injuries, they were still awful. Like, there's no way to sugarcoat it, and it's not to denigrate or like disrespect the players. Nobody played well this year, or I won't say that. Like, just as a whole, as a unit, they did not play well.
Yeah,
had one guy with an all-star season, Hunter Goodman. Awesome, great for him, but that doesn't overlook the fact the rest of that roster, baseball is a team sport, the team as a whole was not good.
Yeah, and you look at just the last couple days in Major League Baseball, where basically all of these races, all of the playoff races, were still pretty open coming into game 161, game 162. And yeah, there were some other pretty bad teams this year, but I think it's very telling that the Rockies were far and away the worst in terms of basically everything. And you look at, there was one other 100 loss team this season. The Chicago White Sox, who set the 162 game loss record last year, they lost 102 games, they won 59. That is still substantially better.
Mm-hmm.
That's 107, not 117, goodness. That's 17 more wins than the Rockies had, right? I'm not good at numbers, let's be real.
Yeah.
But this whole season is the culmination of the Rockies doing everything wrong constantly for the last decade.
Yeah. When it comes to everything, roster construction, how they evaluate players, how they utilize research and development and analytics. All these things have finally caught up to them. The game has surpassed them by so much. Where, like, you can look at the Chicago White Sox. Who was it? Was it that Shane Smith that they picked up in the Rule 5 draft?
Yes.
Past season? And look at the year he had. A phenomenal year. It had a phenomenal start today to close out the season. They saw talent there. They snagged him right away in the Rule 5 draft, and he had a phenomenal year with them. They were able to find these gems. Yeah, the Rockies have lucked into some gems. Mickey Moniak had a great year, or had a really good year. But even then, you look at everything else, the guys that they were supposed to draft and develop, who were supposed to be their stars, they have just a lot of average players right now.
Yeah. The Shane Smith finishes the season with a 3.81 ERA over 29 starts, 145 strikeouts, and 146.1 innings pitched, over 2.0 wins above replacement per Baseball Reference. And the Rockies had just one starting pitcher that was worth over 1 win above replacement, and that's Kyle Freeland with 1.3, who we're celebrating the fact that he had a ERA under 5 for the first time since 2022, and only barely. He finished this season with a 4.98 ERA and 17 losses, tying, 1998 Darryl Kyle for most losses in franchise history.
Yeah.
Like, it was bad. And the Rockies, like, statistically finish with one of the single worst starting rotations in the history of Major League Baseball.
Yeah. We're used to the Rockies having bad pitching with Colorado. And it's just been synonymous because it was always, pitching at Coors Field is just so hard. It's so difficult. We've had, bad pitching staff, but it's never felt this bad, especially at Coors Field. Hasn't felt this bad, and it's been even worse on the road. All things considered, where you couldn't blame the environments. It was bad pitching.
Oh, Coors Field is hard to pitch at. Sure, but they're terrible on the road, too.
Yeah, then what's your excuse when you're pitching at Oracle Park or Dodger Stadium or against the Padres at Petco? In Seattle, they're going to some really nice pitchers' parks, and they're awful. So maybe it's less the environment and the fact that the arms you're deploying just were not good.
Yeah, and you look at, we were pulling them up and looking at them earlier today, the StatCast numbers for the Rockies starting pitching staff this year are dire when you look at them. You've got Bradley Blaylock and Herman Marquez, who by almost every StatCast metric were two of the worst pitchers in baseball this year, in terms of basically every single category that StatCast measures. Same for Senzatela. Freeland was bad, but not as bad. And it's frustrating because, remember, we entered this season going, of all the issues this team has, the rotation's probably not going to be the biggest one.
Yeah, because it's back and healthy. You got Senzatela, got Herman back healthy. Ryan Feltner was awesome last year during that second half. He's back. Freeland is going to be that rock, and Gomber's coming back. Okay, we can feel confident in that. We've got arms on the way as well. Dollander, Palmquist, all these guys. But then it just never clicked. Aside from Freeland, who even had his rough spots, he essentially became the most consistent starter in that rotation for most of the year. And the problem was he gets all those losses because the offense was so awful. And we'll talk about them in a second, but that rotation just collapsed. It seemed like no matter who you put in, you didn't know what you were going to get, even with Tanner Gordon, who had a good month of August. Good, strong finish to the season, but he still had his bumps. Bradley Blaylock, McCade Brown, whoever you threw in there, it just wasn't working.
Yeah. And it really is like, for all of the hate that he gets, whether it is justified or not, Kyle Freeland had a Kyle Freeland season. He was basically the same, not great, not terrible pitcher that he has been every season since 2020.
Yeah, that's a player that any team would gladly give like $8 to $10 million to fill out your rotation, not $16 million to lead your rotation.
Yeah, an ERA between 4.5 and 5, a WHIP of around 1.4, a little 9 to 10 hits per 9, under 2 home runs per 9, around 2 walks per 9, and between 6 and 7 strikeouts per 9.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. He had his FIP, his fielding independent pitching, indicated that he was honestly pitching better than his 4.98 ERA would indicate. But overall, this year, Kyle Freeland was Kyle Freeland. He was a league average back of rotation pitcher. It was everybody else that just completely collapsed. It was Senzatela and Herman and Bradley Blaylock and all of these guys, just nothing worked. And I feel so bad for Herman because we watched him pitch what are very likely his last games as a Rocky. All indications from the team are that he's not coming back. And he was terrible for most of the season. He had that one really good stretch after Bud Black was fired, leading up into the All-Star break. And then he got hurt. And then we weren't able to trade him. And then he was awful for the rest of the season. And I hate saying that because I love Herman. Love him very much. He's one of my favorite Rockies of all time. But statistically, he was terrible this year. Antonio Senzatela, whom I also like a great deal, was terrible. Just every single person who took the mound for the Rockies this year in a starting capacity, there was very little to like other than Kyle Freeland being decent, being average. You got some pretty good starts from Tanner Gordon. That was cool. Enjoyed that.
Yeah. Dollander threw out a couple of intriguing gems here and there. And those, it kind of boils down to those 3 veteran that have been here. They're kind of emblematic of what's been wrong with this team, and what went wrong with 2025 is they are part of that old guard, the Rockies' way of thinking of that. It's just been stagnant. Since 2018, what have the Rockies done to move the needle back to reaching the postseason thing? You have some intriguing players, but a lot of it's, you've seen they don't know how to help players get better, so to speak, or take big strides, and they just go with what they've always done. It worked 5 years ago. Let's try it now. So there's lack of evolving, and we've seen that with Senzatela and Herman. Like you said, we love these guys, but where has the growth been from those rookie years or Herman in 2021? Those years where the guys were good. What did the Rockies do to help them continue to improve? It seemed like they just hit a wall and then stagnated. And while the rest of the league got better and hitters got better, Rockies just stayed the same and declined.
Yeah, pitchers who have been here for 9 years, in Senzatela, in Freeland, in Marquez, who are not better than they were when they were rookies, when they were young. Now all these guys are in their 30s, and they are not better. What did we do to develop them outside of their initial player development?
Yeah.
And the answer is nothing.
Aside from the talent that got them to the big leagues, what did the Rockies do to really help these guys continue to improve and adapt? Because we see guys that as they get older, they still can find ways to get better because of their ability to adapt and teams helping them get better. And you can look across the league. Look at Clayton Kershaw, generational pitcher, Hall of Famer. Even as he's gotten older and doesn't have the zip on his fastball and everything, what were the Dodgers able to do to keep him effective? Well, it's still continue to help him learn how to spot pitches and all this stuff. You can look across the league of teams taking older guys, and they have still really good years on the mound. And it's just the Rockies, they can't just use Coors Field as the excuse of pitching. It's a system failure, organizational failure of why pitching is so bad with Colorado. It's because you've done nothing to figure out how to solve the problem. You've done nothing.
It's hard because you want to make these comparisons. These are guys who are leagues above anything the Rockies have ever done. And guys like Jacob deGrom, Clayton Kershaw, Justin Verlander. But these are pitchers in their late 30s, early 40s who all had fantastic seasons.
Yeah.
Like Jacob deGrom was awesome in Texas this year. Justin Verlander, 42 years old, put together a sub-4 ERA season and got the job done.
Incredible second half for Verlander. And these are Hall of Famer guys. But then you can look beyond that throughout the league and what teams were able to get at a guys who, maybe rookies who excelled, or just kind of those mid-range type of guys that just turn in phenomenal years. And instead it's the Rockies like, oh, we don't know what to do, like, throw ground balls. Like, no, you don't know how to develop pitching.
Okay. Here are some old pitchers this year who had some pretty solid seasons. Not like jaw-dropping, but 39-year-old reliever Chris Martin in Texas. 49 appearances, 2.98 ERA. 40-year-old reliever David Robertson with the Phillies. 19 appearances, 4.32. Again, not amazing, but that's pretty solid. We already discussed Verlander and Jacob deGrom and Kershaw. 37-year-old Aroldis Chapman had one of the best seasons he's ever had.
Mm-hmm. Or I think of like a guy like Matthew Boyd, who had a solid year with the Guardians and then goes to the Cubs. For most of the year was a Cy Young candidate. Are the Rockies ever going to get a guy like that? No, probably not. They're never going to experience that unless they figure their junk out. But it's like you can't keep blaming your environment for why pitching's hard. People don't want to pitch for the Rockies because you suck.
Yeah,
because you're not going to help them get better.
Yeah, people always say it's like pitchers don't want to come to Rockies because of the course. And it's like, yeah, that's part of it. But I always have to explain no, the main thing is that people don't want to come and play for the Rockies because the Rockies are one of the least appealing destinations in the league for a whole bunch of different reasons.
But it's like in this era where there's so much information, that's what you hear. Guys go to a team and they're like, oh, there's all this information available to me. And like, they helped me do this or they taught me to do that. Have you ever heard somebody say that about the Rockies? Or very often? I can't think of anybody that's done it recently. I can think of everybody that's done it ever. Yeah, it's more so, hey, I've gone to this other team from the Rockies. Whoa, I'm learning stuff I never heard about with the Rockies. Like that's a problem.
Yeah, the Colorado Rockies had, because it's not just the home team. On the road, they had the worst ERA in baseball.
But they pitch at Coors Field. On
the road, they gave up the most home runs in baseball.
But Coors Field, it's ugh.
On the road, they struck out the fewest batters in baseball. I could keep going. The Rockies were terrible. It doesn't matter where they played. They could play on the moon in a space-age facility made by aliens, and they would still be terrible.
Yeah, and we haven't even touched on the offense yet.
Well, Skyler, that sounds like a great segue into taking our first break and then talking about that when we come back. So don't go anywhere. Our big 2025 season post-mortem will be back after this. Welcome back to Affected by Altitude. That's Skyler. I'm Evan. We're talking the Rockies, the merciful end of the 2025 season. And honestly, just kind of getting off our chest just how bad the Rockies have been this year.
Yes. We kept talking about the pitching and everything that was awful, Evan. And like, it truly is. Just boggles my mind. They've done nothing in 30 plus years to figure out pitching. You would think you would have lucked into that, even by accident, over that time.
The fact that in the pre-Humidor days, we had better pitching.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Like, I think about guys like, Pedro Estacio, whose numbers were never like mind-boggling, but he would go out there and pitch his butt off and, get the job done. And it never felt as bad as it did this year.
The fact that we had 2012 Jamie Moyer had overall a better season as a starter in the rotation, put up more WAR in 2012 as a 49-year-old throwing like 25 miles an hour, had a better statistical season.
His primary pitch was an ephus.
Yeah. Was better than guys that are on the roster today that made starts this season. He threw 53 and 2/3 innings, had a 5.70 ERA over 10 starts. He went 2-5 with 0.1 R WAR. That is absurd. And let's see, in the rotation, only Kyle Freeland had positive WAR as a starting pitcher this year. In like of the main starters.
Woof.
Oh goodness, but and we will say, Evan, we do have to say there were some good performances out of that bullpen. Jimmy Herget, what a revelation he was! Like awesome year for Jimmy. We saw Seth Halverson was figuring some things out. Victor Vodnik has had his moments. Angel Chivi, a lot of those younger guys, Juan Mejia, Jaden Hill. We saw good performances from the bullpen. They just got overworked a ton.
Yeah. The Rockies did not have the worst bullpen in baseball this year. They're still one of the worst. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but they didn't have the worst bullpen in baseball. And there were performances. There were guys out of the bullpen this year. There's a reason that almost all of the Rockies' top performers by wins above replacement, why so many of them are bullpen guys. Or it's Jimmy Herget, it's Victor Vodnik, it's Juan Mejia, and it's Jaden Hill. Jaden Hill ended up being, up there. But even then, a lot of those still aren't good.
You've got a lot of problems when your bullpen's your most valuable pieces of your team.
Yeah, it's the fact that the position players this year,
Stinky.
I don't even know how to put it, but just so many people. The Rockies had multiple players worth -1 WAR or more.
Mm-hmm. Or just like super close to league average.
Yeah, almost every single position player was worth negative wins above replacement in some capacity. Even guys who barely played.
Ew.
And you look at the starting lineup, our most common starting players. And it's Hunter Goodman with 3.7, followed by Ryan McMahon, who has not been here in months, at 1.2.
And his defense is doing a lot of heavy lifting there.
Yes. Followed by Jordan Beck, who had an okay season. I don't want to dunk all over Jordan Beck, because I do think he had a pretty solid season. I wouldn't call it like a breakout campaign or anything like that, but Jordan Beck was by far the least of our issues.
Yeah,
this year.
This was essentially his rookie season, and you'll take that out of a guy who's essentially, for all intents and purposes, is a rookie. After the year he had last year, he was a rookie this year, and you'll take that from him. That was fine.
But you had, Brenton Doyle, who struggled so much for such a large part of the season, being able to salvage his season and get at least into the positives for wins above replacement. Tovar, who was almost at 1 for WAR, but he missed too much time, and honestly he had his struggles this year. But Tovar did a lot right, honestly. There were some improvements around Tovar, and there are some things he needs to keep improving on, but remember, he's 23, and next year, coming into the year healthy, Tovar is not a guy that I'm ready to give up on. But when you look at the position player group for the Colorado Rockies, what it looked like at the end of this season, I don't think there is anybody outside of Tovar and Hunter Goodman, and even then, it depends on how you view things, philosophically speaking, who you go, this position we are set at for the future. I honestly even could say that you don't want to say that, we're set at shortstop and we're set at catcher, because a big part of Hunter Goodman this year is if he can replicate next year.
Yeah. No, there's a big what if on, no, can you do it? Because look at first base as a perfect example. Came into this season, like, okay, first base is figured out. Michael Toglia is going to do his thing. Oh no. When at the end of the season, it's, first base is an open audition again next year.
Yeah. Michael Toglia essentially played himself off the team this season, and potentially out of the big leagues, with -1.6 wins above replacement per Baseball Reference. And I'm trying to remember, I need to look and see how much it was on Fangraphs, because he took over Toglia the worst season by a position player in terms of wins above replacement on Fangraphs from 1999 Dante Bichette.
Yeah.
So let's pull that up really quick. Negative 2.2 wins above replacement per Fangraphs.
Yeah,
and
the big issue for him was, well, strikeouts. And that's a common thread among this team, Evan, of how much this team, it's plate discipline and pitch recognition, all this stuff, an inability to make contact. And those who, you saw the offensive success was because they could make contact. And Tyler Freeman fits in that category, where offensively, a decent enough season, but has no pop. But he's a guy that can get on base and whatnot. And you saw other guys come up of Ryan Ritter, Warming Bernabel, Kyle Karros, guys that were coming up because their main tool was they could hit, they could make contact. But really that was the problem for this team throughout the season was, and has been for several years, is an inability where there are too many strikeouts.
Yeah.
Way too many.
The Rockies finished with the second most strikeouts in the league behind the Los Angeles Angels. And honestly, that's less than we expected them to have because, remember earlier in the season, they were striking out 13, 14 times a game, basically every game. And they hit a nice little stretch in the summer where they weren't striking out as much. But this last little bit of the season, and I don't know if it's fatigue, I don't know if it's just, I don't want to say that the players are half-assing it because I know that they're not intentionally doing so, but if they're just out of gas and swinging at everything, we got to get this over with. Because I will tell you, the last 6 games, all these games the Rockies played, they looked so deflated of we just need to get through the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so frustrating because, like I said, we have no idea what positions we're set at, if any of them, because it's all about if somebody had a good season, can they replicate it? Or if they had a partially good season, what dragged them down? Hunter Goodman had an incredible season this year. But I just think about 2023 Nolan Jones.
Yeah, or any number of players. This year with Brenton Doyle, Ezekiel Tovar. I don't blame you. And I'm in that same boat now where it's hard to even get excited about Goodman for next year because we've seen so many just these one-hit wonders, these flukes. Is this who he is? Or is this just a blip on the radar? Because look at Michael Toglia. 24 seems like the fluke, and that he regressed back to 2023 numbers. It's hard to be optimistic about any of the offensive guys because we just know, can he do it again next year? Probably not.
And even then, there's so many other issues. Like Mickey Moniak and Tyler Freeman both had pretty good offensive seasons. But those are currently both statistical outliers for them in terms of their careers so far. And their defense, both of them, was terrible to the point where it dragged them down into the negatives for wins above replacement, despite having good seasons. Tyler Freeman finishes the year with negative 1.3 wins above replacement, despite the fact that he finished the year with a 281 batting average and a 354 on base percentage, because he was worth negative 1.9 defensive WAR per Baseball Reference.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just across the board, that offense, and it was the same thing with the pitching of, guys get called up. Warming Bernabel was an awesome story through that first week and a half or so, but then he came crashing back down to earth as the league quickly adjusted to him, and he did not adjust back. Started to pick things up a little bit, but nowhere near where he was that first week. Blaine Crim was the same way, where he had his moments. Down this stretch, came in hot, and then it kind of cooled off by the end. And as across the board with a lot of these guys is big league pitching adjusts a lot quicker than when they're moving up through the minor league system.
Yeah. And Bernabel at least is young, where you can go, okay, well, we can maybe do something with this. But, you can't really say that 28, 29-year-old Blaine Crim is going to be your future at first base. He is, if anything, a stopgap while you figure out something else. And, there are worse things to have than a stopgap. But again, we have no idea. It's such a small sample size. We have no idea what he's going to look like next year, if he's going to be here next year. And it's the whole team is like that, where we have to go, we don't know what you are going to look like next year. We don't know if you're going to be here next year. And, there are some guys who should definitely not be here next year. I'm sorry, but if Orlando Arcia is here next year, I'm going to explode. I get it.
Make sure you do it on the podcast.
The guys in the clubhouse love him. He is, by all accounts, a delightful human being who is loved by his teammates and coaches. But he can't play. He can't hit. He can't particularly field. And yet, he ended up appearing in 62 games this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you were saying, there's no really spot that should be safe. Anybody and everybody on this roster can turn over. And, Evan, something that stuck out to me with this roster, too, when it comes to a lot of these rookies and young guys that called up, it's exciting that they get called up. But then it's so deflating. When we follow maybe the minors, maybe a little more than the typical fan. It's deflating when you see, okay, Kyle Karros, a lot of these guys are doing really good in the minors. I hope it translates to the big leagues. And they just look overmatched at times. And there's such a big gap. For Rockies players, it seems a lot of the time. And this isn't just a Rocky-centric thing. This happens across the league. But it feels like every time a youngster was getting called up for the Rockies, they were immediately struggling. Look at Zach Veen at the start of the year, where what an incredible spring training he had, where we're fighting like he should be on the opening day roster. And then when he does get called up, it just didn't work.
And I think a lot of it is that we can't rely on this team to continue their development. And the problem is, and we'll talk about this in a little bit here, is that in these small sample sizes where they struggle or do something weird or aren't quite what they were expected to be, it feels like the front office then immediately gives up on them entirely. Yeah. Like, I feel like this front office has given up on Zach Veen. I feel like this front office has given up on Drew Romo, despite the fact that they've both played barely any big league baseball at all.
Yeah.
And are both still quite young. And it's frustrating. It's deflating because, like, Kyle Karros is our boy. Friend of the show. Loved everything that he's done in the minor league level. An incredible defensive player. And you know that he has the talent. But he struggled, especially at the plate this season. Like, his defense was not the problem, but the hitting was. And the Rockies had 13 different rookies debut this year. And outside of Juan Mejia, who still had his struggles, can you really say that, any of these rookies, even guys that we like, the friends of the show, the guys like that, stood out as someone who could go, yep, that's the future.
Yeah, and that's the thing that we're talking about, where it comes down to, again, to an organizational failure where, hey, what are the Rockies doing to prepare these guys for the big leagues? Because we've seen the talent they have throughout the minor league system. Kyle Karros, a good example, great years in the minor league system. You would hope that a guy would just keep on rolling when he gets to the big leagues, and that maybe there's the slight adjustment, but he's able to quickly adjust and figure things out. We didn't get that really from any of these guys that came up. Yanquiel Fernandez, hitting home runs, doing his thing down in the minors, completely evaporated at the big league level. Zach Veen doing things. Ryan Ritter, who we've talked to, one where we see the hit tool in the minors, what he was doing in Albuquerque, incredible stuff when he gets called up. It didn't translate. Adiel Amador, great stuff in the minors, didn't translate. So what is that development process? What are they doing at the big league level to help these guys make the adjustment?
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like they're doing anything.
Yeah. I mean, let's look at, here is the whole list of everyone who made their debut this year. And you tell me if they made a strong enough impression on you to go, that guy is the future at their position. This guy has a place on this team for the future. Zach Veen.
Nope, didn't really play all that much, and when he did, wasn't that good.
Friend of the show, Ryan Rollison.
Yeah, he had some small flashes, but no.
Friend of the show, Kyle Karros.
With Kyle, I am a little more inclined, just the defense was so good. But we've seen what he can do drawing walks. But even then, like, I need more. I need to see him be Kyle Karros.
Warming Bernabel.
No.
Friend of the show, Ryan Ritter.
Close, but I'd still say no.
Braxton Fulford.
No.
Friend of the show, Zach Agnos.
Early on, Zach Agnos. Maybe on a Zach Agnos.
Agnos is tough because
Relievers are weird.
He started out incredible, despite not flashing his strikeout stuff, and then, after his grandfather died and he had those struggles, nosedived, then he got hurt, missed most of the rest of the season.
Yeah.
And, we at least got him back for a couple more appearances at the end of the year, and he looked pretty solid.
Yeah. Yeah. And
so you know what?
And relievers are always weird.
Yeah. So I'll give him maybe right there. Juan Mejia. Yes.
Yes.
Juan Mejia had a good season.
He conquered death.
His numbers don't look as good as how he actually was. Yeah. I think that's important to point out.
Relievers always have like one or two bad outings, and that just stinks up everything for him.
Yeah. But his final ERA of the season is 4.0, is around 4. His final FIP is under 4, and he has an ERA plus of 121. Like, under the hood, those numbers are good.
Yeah.
And like, that'll do.
Like I said, like, he came back from the dead too. So
Chase Dolander.
On the road, yes.
Carson Palmquist.
No.
And that one really hurts for me because I loved Carson Palmquist coming into this year. And this is one of the ones where I feel like we broke him. We shattered his confidence,
or
we messed with his stuff,
place.
Or we didn't give him the tools to succeed to begin with. McCade Brown, Yanquiel Fernandez.
Fortunately, no.
Fernandez is the bummer because, like, he shows those flashes. Like, the few times that he hit a home run, you're like, hot dog, that guy's got light tower power. But he spent most of the rest of the season driving the ball directly into the dirt.
Yep. And he's slower than molasses.
And he's not a good fielder.
Yeah.
Now,
great arm.
Fabulous arm. Did some really, really cool stuff, but had a 50% ground ball rate this year, and isn't really fast, and doesn't run routes very well, and just...
If you squint your eyes, he was just a big Raimel Tapia.
Kind of, yeah. And then finally, Dugan Darnell.
Dugan, yes, but also we look at his age and where he fits in that roster structure.
And some of these guys, you have to go, okay, well, injuries make it difficult to evaluate. And those are guys like Agnos, like Dugan, and I would even say like Warming Bernabel, because he was kind of starting to pull himself back out of a slump before that head injury basically, took him out for a hot minute. And Ryan Ritter missed time due to injuries as well. But Ritter is so difficult to evaluate because defensively he was pretty good. But again, it's the bat, it's the hitting tool. And that's been the problem with all of these position players is consistent offense.
Yeah.
And
you can't rely on the adage of, oh, you just know they're going to hit. No, Drew Goodman. And I think he learned that this year. You can't say that. You don't know if they're going to hit.
That was something that surprised me near the end of today's game is Drew Goodman, who has drawn a lot of ire from fans this year, especially, on the corners of the internet, for the relentless positivity, admitted in today's game that, like, there's really nothing set in stone with this team, that this team needs a complete overhaul, and that essentially no position is safe outside of maybe shortstop and catcher. And that was really surprising to hear. But it's true, is that at the end of the day, we have no idea what we've got. Even with the prospects in the system, even with the guys already on the team, we have no clue.
Yeah, I don't know. That's really all you can say. Like Jordan Pacheco and Nick Wilson, Clint Hurdle, they did what they could, but you can only do so much with the resources you have, and the Rockies don't have the resources. And in a lot of ways, don't have the talent either. So, I don't know.
Yeah, and so the real question is, what comes next? And we'll discuss that after taking another quick break. So, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Affected by Altitude with Evan and Skyler. And Skyler, we've spent a lot of time today, breaking down what went wrong this season. It's not been a very upbeat episode, but I think we've earned it after watching 162 games of 2025 Colorado Rockies baseball. But the question is now what? What comes next?
Well, the Denver Broncos are in the middle of their season, so you'll watch them, and then the Avalanche and the Nuggets are starting here really soon, so you've got some better sports to watch.
You get a full season of Gabriel Landeskog. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, he's already beaten up people.
Dropped gloves for the first time in like 4 years in a preseason game.
So what comes next is you start watching other things. No, but when it comes to the Rockies, that's the big question of the offseason, Evan, that, it's this uncharted territory for us as Rockies fans, and I think the Rockies themselves of, when it's been this bad, there's nothing to delude yourself about. No air of delusions here to try and mask everything. You can't mask what this team is after this year. There's no way. And so it's a crossroads for them where they have to actually look in the mirror and say, just evaluate, what are they?
Here's a very tortured analogy. It's like your dog pooped on the kitchen floor. And instead of picking it up, you just tried to spray paint over it so it kind of vaguely matched the color of the kitchen floor, but it's still there. That's the 2025 Colorado Rockies. There's no masking it. You can still tell that the poop is there because nobody ever picked it up. And this offseason, the Rockies need to pick up that poop. They need to put the baggie on their hand and scoop it on up and throw it in the garbage.
Yeah, it's what a horrible analogy.
But not untrue. And that's what matters here.
Yeah, that is you look at what the team has done in the past. We're like, no, these last couple of years after a bad season, like, yeah, this wasn't what we wanted. But look at this other cool stuff we have.
Yeah, the Dick Monfort season ticket letter of, well, this wasn't the season that we wanted, but we had so many exciting things happen in 2020, blah.
And look at the prospects we have on the way. But outside of, Hunter Goodman was really good this year, which he was. There's not a whole lot else. Yeah, good for Mickey Moniak, but he's not really the future of the team. And what the next generation is led by what? Charlie Condon? And even now, like we said, I don't know if he'll do his thing at the big league level. Ethan Holiday, yeah, it's great that we got him, but I don't have confidence in this organization to get him where he needs to be.
What is really scary is how much of the future of this organization depends on proper player development, and that is absolutely not something we can trust this team with.
Yeah, and I think that's where it comes with the organization, the overhaul with the organization and evaluating of where they're struggling and what they need to improve on. It goes down to that of just the systems, the philosophies in place with how you do things. The Rockies have done the same thing probably since day one, 1993. Bill Schmidt's still looking at those stat sheets from 30 years ago. That's where it starts. And so this organization, it starts at the top of, you need somebody in place to run this show, to take charge of this ship and get it right on track. And that's where, I guess, that's the first order of business.
Yeah. That is, and for what it is worth, most members of the Rockies media, Patrick Saunders, everybody, believe that the writing is on the wall, that Bill Schmidt will not be the Rockies general manager next year. Whatever that entails, if he's fired, if he's reassigned, whatever. But that is the tip of the iceberg for what this team needs to do. Mm-hmm. Honestly, this team needs to burn it down to the ground entirely and start from scratch. You need to bring this thing down to its very foundations. No stone left unturned. No thing that doesn't need to be rebuilt. If I am being perfectly honest, I can count on one hand the people in this organization from a baseball side of things. Like, I'm not going to be like, oh, the director of social media needs to be fired, whatever. From a baseball operations perspective, who should be back next year? And that includes coaches, and that includes training staff. They should reevaluate the position of basically every single person from top to bottom, from low A to major league. Heck, Arizona Complex League even.
Mm-hmm.
Where, let's just look at the big league coaching staff. Skyler, is there anybody that you can make a really impassioned plea that they 100% should be totally safe?
It's hard since it was mostly an interim staff this year for the majority of the year. And so that's the hard part of it. But probably no. And it's just because everything needs to be evaluated and figured out.
The guys that I would say should be maybe at the least risk, I would say, I think overall, Dustin Garneau did a very good job as the bullpen coach this year.
Yeah, and I put Jordan Pacheco, Nick Wilson, like those guys have the chops to be good big league hitters.
But you've got to give them the resources to succeed.
Yeah, that's the same thing. And like Warren Schaefer, like I'd be okay if Schaefer came back. Like no issue there because he's bought into this. He doesn't sugarcoat it. He knows this team stunk, but he remained that positivity because he's locked in. He cares about those players, but he's also a realist. Like this was not a good season. He knows that. You and I know that, and he didn't try to sugarcoat it. He's not going to throw his players under the bus, but he understands like, the players were not good this year either.
Yeah, but one guy who I think absolutely should not be safe, Darryl Scott. Like, I think the fact that we've had diminishing returns in this pitching staff every year, and it concluded with the worst starting rotation in baseball, there's no way you can justify having him come back next year. And that's not to say anything against Darryl Scott as a person. Like, this is, I always want to make sure that we cement this in the eyes of the viewers and listeners. None of this is personal. There is no personal vendetta against Darryl Scott or Buddy Black or Ron Gideon or Mike Redmond or whomever. This is all purely looking at it from the baseball perspective of, if I was the pitching coach and the pitching was that bad, why should I still be the pitching coach?
Yeah. And especially, I have been in this organization for many, many years, and it's the same thing with a lot of the guys in this organization. People have just been here for too long. So it's stagnation of ideas. There's no outside thoughts. When remember that one article where it's like the Denver Post did their big thing, and it counted out combined years of how the people that were there, like, they had been there a combined absurd number of years, all combined, and it makes you realize like it's stagnate.
Yeah.
It's so
is
insular.
that a good thing?
Yeah.
Like the Rockies pride themselves on their loyalty and how long people are here for. But, they go around as, our medical training staff has been here for 30 years. This guy's been here for 19 years. This guy's been here for 15 years. And I'm like, but that's not necessarily a good thing, because where are you getting new ideas, new plans, new resources? It rolls back to,
why aren't these people getting promotions or like opportunities elsewhere?
Yeah. Would any of these guys have a surefire position with another big league team? Because very frequently the answer's been no, where on the rare occasion that somebody gets fired or moves on, they don't generally land anywhere else.
What's Jeff Bridich doing?
The most recent guy I can think of is, Walt Weiss being the bench coach for the Braves.
Yeah, and that's coaching and whatnot, but like front office people, like, especially recently, I don't know.
Yeah, like, can you say that Bill Schmidt, if you were to fire him, would be able to get a job with another organization?
Or a GM spot? No,
Any
because
spot,
yeah, any
honestly.
spot. Like look at Jeff Bridich, not in baseball.
And you look at,
Dan O'Dowd's on TV.
there are some guys who, and again, like I said, it's mostly coaches. And even then, a lot of these coaches don't get picked up elsewhere. Nobody took a flyer on Hensley Newlands after he got fired. No, Reed Cornelius, as far as I'm aware, last year's bullpen coach, I don't think landed anywhere. Just, it's one of those things where there's one thing to be loyal, to stand up for your guys. And it's another thing to be so loyal that you are willing to overlook the flaws.
Yeah. And also, Reed Cornelius was the pitching coach for the Louisville Bats, the AAA affiliate of the Reds this year.
Oh, good for him. Not a big league job, though.
Yeah. Hey, but didn't they go to the AAA playoffs?
I don't know. It's just
beside the point.
It's one of those things where this team so desperately needs someone from outside to come in and tell them everything that is wrong. And even more desperately, they need to listen to that person. Like, Dick Monfort's not going to enjoy hearing about what all is wrong with this organization from top to bottom, but he needs to sit down and shut up and listen.
Yeah. And that's probably the biggest thing, because a lot of that, what happens is like bringing in a president of baseball ops and letting, maybe Walker Monfort gets a little more control over, letting his dad know, like, we need to change these things. We need new sets of eyes to come in. Because when it's just people in the same system coming in and looking at the same problem, they've been hearing the same solutions around them for years upon years. And then it's like you're saying, you got to listen. If somebody does come in to say, hey, we should try this, people like then having that shut down. Evan, when I was a missionary serving in Oregon, as a missionary, you have a trainer who kind of teaches you the ropes, how to be a missionary, teach people, and how to talk to people on the street and whatnot. Come up with ideas of how to contact people, or like, what are some ideas we can find people who are interested in, hearing about our religion, all this stuff. And what? He had been in that area for like 6 months, a long time as a missionary, Evan. He'd been there for a while. But I come in brand new. I'm like, hey, let's try this. Why don't we try this to try and find or talk to people so that we can teach them? And every time I'd bring up an idea, he immediately shuts it down. No, we already tried that. Doesn't work. No, we've already tried that. Doesn't work. And that was deflating for me, being with him for however long, a couple of months I was with him. And it's that same thing with the Rockies, where maybe people with bright eyes come in like, hey, let's try this. And then they're like, nope, that doesn't work.
Yeah. And we already know that that's how Dick Monfort feels about it, because he said it.
Yeah.
Because he said, we've either already tried it and it didn't work, or it wasn't worth trying at all. What a great way to attract the best and brightest young minds in baseball to your organization. Maybe that's the reason why almost everybody in this organization is in like their 60s and 70s.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's got to go outside for help too. And that's been the problem with the Rockies, that he is insular, loyal to a fault, doesn't like to go on the outside, somebody who might come and rock the boat a bit. Walker, on the other hand, from what it sounds like, he maybe has a little bit more of that initiative, and that's what I'd like to see, is him have some opportunity to help on that aspect, and maybe nudge his dad a little more, like, let's do this. And I know he's on the business side of things, but he's taken over more of the baseball ops too. Bring in a president of baseball ops who can then run through this organization, bring in his own GM, bring in his own other people. Dick Monfort will always have his say, but he can also relinquish some of his control of the team itself and let the baseball people do their baseball jobs.
You know what I think of is, I'm struggling to remember his name right now. It was a couple of years ago where they brought in a new head of R&D and analytics, and he had been with multiple different teams, and he was gone from the organization before spring training, and it was never confirmed why they parted ways. But basically, all the word on the street was that he and the front office, basically the front office wouldn't listen to him.
Yeah. Scott Van Linton.
That's the one. And that can't happen anymore. There cannot be any more of, well, we're the only ones who can figure out how to win in altitude. Well, nobody from outside understands what it's like to play at altitude. It's like, maybe that's a good thing. It's been said so many times, a fresh set of eyes.
Yeah. It was major disagreements concerning his role with the team as the director of the research and analytics department.
Which I'm willing to bet broke down to, hey, we should try this. No. Hey, what about this? We already tried it and didn't work. Hey, what about this? It's not worth trying. Hey, what about this? You just don't understand baseball at altitude like we do.
Yeah. So you got to be open to new ideas. Anything. No wrong answers at this point. Like, you take whatever people offer and take things into consideration. Have a lengthy search. If by the time you're hearing this, we don't receive news that, hey, Bill Schmidt has been relieved of his duties as general manager, what are we doing?
Yeah, that should be concerning.
That was that ESPN article where rival analysts and other things for other organizations, executives, why haven't they
done anything yet?
Done anything? Because if it was us, we would have changed it so they're prepped and ready to go by the time I have a plan in place by the time the off season starts.
You know who did that? The Washington Nationals, who they fired their GM and president of baseball operations before the trade deadline.
Yeah,
which is something that we were advocating for. And before the season was over, they have a new guy set up, and it's the former VP of baseball operations for the Boston Red Sox, a team that had a really good season with a lot of really promising young talent.
Yeah. So they're just lagging behind.
Yeah. And I do get the idea of you want to save face and not fire this longtime guy in the middle of the season or whatever. But if they didn't even have anything planned coming into what is generally Black Monday of coaches and managers and GMs are getting fired, and if we don't hear by the end of Monday that Bill Schmidt has been relieved of his duties, then what are we doing? Because we shouldn't have to wait and find out if that's going to happen. Remember how agonizing it was at the end of last season, where it was radio silence for over a month, and then they announced that Bud Black was coming back.
Yeah. Ugh.
That can not happen.
Yeah, you got to get a move on, because there's no longer the stigma in baseball where it's like, oh, please hold back all your announcements during the playoffs. No, teams don't care anymore. We're going to do our business.
Yeah, the Rockies hiring a new GM or firing somebody is not going to distract from the Yankees in the playoffs or whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, it starts at the top. Dick Monfort's got to relinquish control, let his son maybe have some more business decisions, and install somebody to run the show.
And it does seem like Walker is making changes, where somebody pointed out on Purple Row in the comments the other day that very quietly a bunch of the business side people had new titles as of the last couple weeks. And there's the thing is, keep making changes. No stone left unturned.
Yeah.
That's the
Hire me as the manager.
Sure.
Or the GM. Sell me the team for the $300 I have in my bank account.
I can give you $350. I'll outbid Skyler.
No.
It's like when you're running out of money in Monopoly and one of the properties goes to auction. It's like, no, please. I only have $264.
Yeah, but that's probably what we want to see most is what happens next. Well, you start shaking up that front office. Start at the top and then let it trickle down.
Yeah,
and
make noise.
And honestly, I hate to see a guy come in and completely, get rid of all the players that you're excited about and want to see. But maybe
that's what needs to happen.
Yeah, that's what needs to happen. No, I would hate to see Ezekiel Tovar get traded, but that would be the type of move that happens with a new regime when it comes in, type thing.
We need the new regime to be loud.
Yeah. Be willing to experiment.
And most importantly, you know what I think, and we'll close it out on this, they need to actually communicate. We cannot have any more of these long periods of radio silence where we have no idea what the team is doing, what the plan is, or if they even have a plan. We need someone who's actually going to be out there and not be, like Dick Monfort has been, like Bill Schmidt has been, afraid to do interviews, to talk to the fans, to let them know what's going on.
It has been a long time since we had a postseason press conference with the GM and the owner. It has been a long time.
And that needs to change. If, you know what would be a good thing? If Walker Monfort comes out this coming week, and does a post-mortem press conference, that will put a lot of goodwill towards him in my books.
Yeah. Learning from the sins of the father. That might be the takeaway from this segment, Evan. Like, to have Walker learn from the sins of the father and rectify it.
Yeah, 100%. But that pretty much puts a wrap on the 2025 Colorado Rockies season. We thank you so much for sticking with us through what has been a slog, to say the least. It's been a rough year, but we're not going anywhere. We're going to, keep podcasting through the off season. We're going to try and come up with some new stuff, new ideas, ways to make things fun over the off season, and, get us through to the other side, and we'll be here.
Mm-hmm. But we've got awards show will come up in the near future. We'll have that sometime. That's probably the biggest one, or the 2025 annual, what do we call them? The Affected by Altitude Awards?
We call them something. I feel like it's changed almost every year.
The Altitude Awards?
The Tooties.
Yeah. But we got that coming. That'll be fun. It's always a fun one. Maybe we'll ask people, if you have an idea for a category, for awards for the awards that we hand out this year, it could be anything from a serious one, but maybe a more fun, interesting one like we've done before, like Dumbest Thing. That one's always fun. I always like Dumbest Thing.
Dumbest Thing was good. One that I've always pushed for is the BFFs award, or I call it the Cutest Couple award.
And I've tried to shoot it down every year.
And it's nice to have guys on the team that very clearly like being teammates, like being around each other. Your best friends. I like that.
The guy that you hate to admit was a good addition to this team.
The Mickey Moniak Award. Sorry, Mickey.
So, that kind of stuff. And if you need ideas for other awards, like what we've done, you can go look back at the 2024 episode, back in the archives. They're very silly. It's very stupid. Dumbest, best.
It's a fun one to do.
We had a lack of bits this year.
Because eventually there weren't any more bits to do, because everything was so much.
The Rockies.
Pretty much everything was so much stupider than what we could come up with.
Yeah, but so that'll come up maybe sometime in October. We'll figure it out.
I mean, eventually we just kind of gave up on the phone call check-ins with Chris Bryant because it got too sad.
He changed his number, and my soundboard stopped working with our new platform that we used to record this episode.
That's got to be something we'll figure out. But yeah, it's a long off season, but let the off season be a nice break. We'll try and do some fun stuff at the same time. You can enjoy the many other fun Colorado sports.
Yeah. Go back and look at our Rooftop Mingle archives. Our most recent one, Sterling Thompson. That was a fun one.
He was a lot of fun. We're going to try and have a couple more interviews. It's a little bit tougher now that all the minor league seasons are over. But, we're always at least trying to do new stuff. And if there's stuff that you want to see us do over the off season, give us a holler. Give us some ideas. Yeah. We are more than open to them.
We've already got the request for a video game show.
It was I feel like I don't play enough video games to do that anymore, but
we're talking about Tetris.
Oh man, I love Tetris.
There you go. There's an episode.
But overall, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up here. Put a nice, tidy little bow on the 2025 season. Real quick before we go, Skyler, what teams are you rooting for in the playoffs?
Go Mariners. Big Dumpy needs a big ring on that finger.
If you liked it, then you should have put a ring on it.
And we do.
And we do. I agree. My teams that I'm sticking with are the Mariners and probably the Tigers. Honestly, I'm going solely American League. I guess the Reds could be neat because I think they did get in. Are they officially in now?
I don't know. I've been doing this podcast.
But overall, it's American League teams. There's not really a team in the American League, except for maybe the Yankees, that I would be like, oh, I would hate it if they won.
Yeah.
Like, even the Red Sox, because we discussed before the show, because Trevor Story is there, and we love Trevor Story.
Yeah, who had a good resurgence this year when he...
Fabulous year. I think he could be in the running for comeback player of the year, honestly.
Yeah, good year. I would also, like, I don't hate the Phillies.
Yeah, I do.
I'm okay with the Phillies.
Putting you on notice, Philadelphia.
Do you not like the Phillies, or do you not like Phillies fans?
No comment.
It's like, I don't mind the Phillies. Like, they've been so close. I feel like they're due. They just need to get over that hump.
Phillies is short for Filberts.
That's what they say.
The Filbertdelphia Filberts.
But, like, I wouldn't mind, like, Bryce Harper getting a ring. Like, that'd be nice.
Bruce Hooper.
I think he's earned that in his career, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Will I watch any games? No, I will not. Maybe I'll watch one or two.
Oh, I'll watch a couple, but I'm not going to be as
invested. Depending on where I can find them.
It's hockey time. It's time to watch hockey and basketball.
It's hooky.
Hookish.
Old-time hooky.
But once again, thank you so much for sticking with us through this season. We appreciate each and every one of you who listens to this nonsensical show every week. Skyler, where can the folks find you at?
As always, find me over on Twitter at Skyler Timmons. I haven't gotten a new follower in a long time, so if you're listening to this, go find me there. Or you can also find me over on Blue Sky at stimmons13, WSKMout.social. I don't post that much there either, but I'll take follows. That'd be nice.
Have you considered that the reason why you don't get follows is because you don't post?
No, that can't be it. I got nothing to say. But then you can also find me over at purpleroad.com throughout the offseason, right in the Wednesday rock piles, I guess for now. But also, we're starting our ranking the Rockies. And so relive the horrendous season player by player over there.
That's gonna be so long. The Rockies used so many players this year, and so many of them were not good.
Mm-hmm.
You can find me over on Blue Sky at evanlang27.bsky.social, where I am followed by the very real and definitely not a bot Ricky Jackson of the Los Angeles Sparks.
There you go.
Totally real. But I'd love to hear from you on there. Find me over on Purple Road doing the Monday Rock Piles and the weekly Pebble Reports. And, catch us on here as always. Remember that you can find Rocky Mountain Rooftop on all of your favorite podcasting platforms of choice. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio. If it's got podcasts, we are probably on it. You can catch us on YouTube for the video version of the show. And remember that you can find us on all of your favorite social media platforms of choice, including YouTube, at Rocky Mountain Rooftop. That's at ROCKYMTN Rooftop. Skyler, one more time on this day of game 162. How about you hit him with it and we get on out of here?
So long, Stinktown.
Oh, it's even got the wavy stink lines going over there.
I'm going to miss the 2025 Rockies, Evan. This team's been awfully good to us. No, it hasn't, Dad. That's why we're leaving. Oh, yeah. So long, Stinktown.
Can our new president of baseball operations be Hank Scorpio?
Yes. But also, Evan, farewell! This has been Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast with Rocky Mountain Rooftop, a proud affiliate of the Fans First Sports Network. Catch new episodes every Monday on wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Be sure to follow us on YouTube as well for video versions of the show.